Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Prospect Corner presented by the Hockey Writers. Today, we're going to be looking at some potential steals for the 2024 draft. We're also looking back at the last three drafts and kind of picking some early steals there that are so far. And then we're going to be doing a deep dive into the Buffalo Sabres farm system. We're going to start from there. We're going to just keep going until we're through them all. That's going to take a bit of time. We may do two an episode at times, but and then, of course, I'm talking about the 2024 draft throughout as well. I am your host, Matthew Zator, and I am joined in, as always, prospect experts at the Hockey Writers, Peter Baracchini and Dayton Reimer. Peter, how's it going?
Doing great, yeah. Trade deadlines around the corner. Then right after that, we're going to amp up the content of the draft over at THW. So that's going to be very interesting. We are already set. We're already getting so prepared, and yeah, we're excited to get going for the home stretch now.
Yeah, right after the trade deadline, we'll be starting to release some prospect profiles, as we always do at the Hockey Writers here. We also have, of course, all the coverage that we usually do for the draft too. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. And Dayton, how's it going?
Oh, not too bad. It's I think I heard minus 40 with the wind chill today. So
not fun.
Staying warm is about all I can say.
Yeah, it's not that cold here, but it had gotten back to freezing again here. So yeah, we always get some kind of blast of winter at the end, going into March, and then all of a sudden it's spring. So we'll see. Hopefully, there's not too much more of that. All right, so let's before we get going with our steals here, I got to remind everyone of the Hockey Writers Substack. We have one dedicated to every NHL team. We also got one for the NHL draft and prospects, which is going to get a lot bigger and a lot more stuff going to be in there as we get going closer to the draft, as we go through the draft. So sign up to get all our best prospect articles throughout the Hockey Writers website. We got directly to your inbox. Also got the premium tier, which gives you exclusive articles, rankings, prospect interviews, mailbags, a whole bunch of fun stuff there. So make sure you're checking that out at the sign up link below. All right, well, let's get started into our steals. We're going to be doing a few of these as we get closer to the draft, because everyone loves looking at deeper into the draft with some of the different names that maybe you don't know, because we know all the stars. We know all the guys that are going to be drafted in the top 10, top 15, but there are some that could potentially be guys that should have been drafted there that we already have a few in this from this past draft looking like that. So Peter, I'll start with you. Who are you kind of have your eye on as potentially a steal already? I know it's early. I know we're not going to find this out until maybe 5 years down the road that they are, but there's some early indications of some players that could potentially be drafted later on that could end up being steals. Do you have anyone in mind?
I mean, if it's too early, I'm just going to say Connor Bedard at number 1 overall. I mean, yeah, it is fairly early to say who's going to be a standout, but I think the obvious one is probably Zach Benson on Buffalo, which we will probably talk about later on. But I mean, it's the most glaring one because of the IQ and the hockey sense that he already has. Like the skill set, yeah, he's undersized, 5'10", I believe, is what his weight or height is at, 5'9", 163. Yeah, that may be a slight red flag in regards to can he hold his own, but 18 points in 47 games this season in the NHL is actually pretty impressive. And considering that the Sabres are kind of like on a downward spiral right now, again, mid-season, he's still looking like a bright spot for them. He's energetic. He's a strong playmaker. He's got the skill and hands in tight spaces. He's very dynamic. And again, the puck sense and IQ is just what really stands out. I mean, obviously, too early to tell, but for him to fall outside of that top 10, like the Buffalo Sabres have been doing the past, 2, 3 seasons of drafting, they've just been stealing players and plucking them whenever they fall into their hands. And that's a very good sign for them. So very early on, he's probably going to be my early steal. I'd probably say Oliver Moore too for the Chicago Blackhawks. I thought maybe he could have been a little bit higher up as well. But, when you have a 1-2 Bedard and Moore as your potential future centers, that's still pretty fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Benson's the more of the biggest obvious one. Won't talk too much about because we're doing the Buffalo Sabres farm system. He's probably pretty high up there. But yeah, he's definitely one from the 2023 draft already, and he's in the NHL. And he's a regular in the NHL. Mm-hmm. He's not a guy that's being like scratched all the time. He's playing a lot.
Call ups and down constantly.
Yeah, so he's a guy that's already established himself in the NHL. Obviously going to have a lot more to come from him potential wise, but yeah, definitely 13th overall. Should have been top 10 for sure. Dayton, who do you got from the 2023 draft already that you're seeing that is already a steal where they were drafted?
Well, I went a little bit further down the draft to see if there was anyone that jumped out at me, and I got down into the 7th round. So pulling way down here, but Aiden Fink was a 7th round pick by the Nashville Predators. He had a really great season when he was drafted, 97 points in 54 games with the Brooks Bandits, was an assistant captain, and still fell to the 7th round. I mean, 5'10" isn't that small, right? So I don't know why people kept passing on him or teams kept passing on him. Clearly they shouldn't have, because he is one of the top scorers in Penn State University right now. He has 33 points in 32 games as a freshman. Very impressive in the NCAA. 15 of which are goals. So he is putting up the points and doing very well as a college student hockey player. And yeah, looks like he is right on track to become a very productive player in the future.
Yeah, he's one that was really surprising where he went at 218th overall. That's like almost that he wasn't drafted. So I mean, to be there, and I think Logan had him 3rd round, I believe, in his rankings. I don't know where you had him, Peter. I believe it was around there too.
Around there, it was at least a 3rd round selection. Yeah.
So I mean, to go in the 7th round and he's showing that it's like you said, NCAA is not easy to score in as a freshman, and he's doing it. So that's 15 goals is quite a few for a guy that's just getting his feet wet in college. So we'll see what he does in the next few seasons in there, because if this is his first year, what is he going to do as he matures, as he gets stronger? Yeah, it's going to be fun. Nashville sure got a steal down there, and they got quite a few guys in this draft that are going to end up being pretty good for them in the future for sure. All right, I'm gonna just pick out. I know he's not a Canucks prospect anymore, but I still think he's a steal, and that's Hunter Brzustewicz. I know he's a Calgary Flames prospect now, but what he's doing in the OHL and where he was drafted in the 3rd round, in the 3rd round, and he's scoring at a clip that he's slowed down a bit. Finally, I mean, it took a while for him to slow down, but he's not doing as much, but he's still on pace for almost 100 points, and he's doing it. 94 points. So he's still pretty close to being on pace to get that 100 points. And, to nearly double his production from last season and looking like he could be a legitimate, maybe not a top 4 right now, but definitely an NHL defenseman. He's definitely a steal in the 3rd round. And now it's not going to be a steal for the Canucks, but for a steal of where he was selected. So Brstevich is for me for the 2023 draft so far. Right, let's move to the 2022. Now we're going to start getting maybe clearer as we go through here, but 2022 draft. I'll start with you, Dayton. Is there anyone from that's already looking like a steal so far?
Yeah, there's a few guys who are still playing in junior who I think are clearly steals, like they should have gone higher. I'll start with one of my hometown guys, Brandon Lazowski for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He was another 7th round pick. Now he is on the smaller side at 5'9", but he definitely doesn't play 5'9". He's got a lot of strength to him. He's got a great shot and works really well on that top line for the Saskatoon Blades. Right now he has 33 goals in 57 games, on pace for 80 points, putting up career highs. That's exactly where you want him. He is going to be a very dangerous scorer if given the opportunity. As a smaller player, of course, you're never sure if he's going to get it, but right now he's looking very good. Another one I will add is a defenseman, Graham Sword. He is also playing in the WHL with the Wenatchee Wild. So he has 14 goals in 56 games, pretty good for a defenseman, and then 70 points. I don't know where these are coming from, but he's really breaking out this year. And like 6'3", 192. He was a 5th round pick of the Nashville Predators. Another good Nashville pick. Yeah, he's got a really good sense for offense and is showing that with his 20-year-old season in Wenatchee. So yeah, really like to see that breakout, and I think that's another one that the Predators have in the pocket that is going to pay off well.
Yeah, the Predators sure have a few guys in the last couple drafts for sure. We already mentioned two of them now. Before Peter, I'll mention mine, and that's Dennis Hildeby. 4th round pick. I mean, he's a goaltender, so I mean a lot of the time these guys, the goaltenders, do get drafted later on. But for what he's doing so far, he did have a start. He did, Peter, right? It says he has one game. So
I don't think he got
a starter or was in relief.
No, I don't think he got any games whatsoever.
All right, so he was just there.
he didn't get any games until Ilya Samsonov came back.
All right. Yeah, but he's looked really good for the Toronto Marlies. Already possibly going to be getting some NHL time soon. And for a 4th round pick, looking like, and it's a bit of a spoiler. He is 10th in my newest rankings for goaltending prospects. So yeah, he's shot up on a lot of boards and could potentially be. I think the Maple Leafs are starting to get some goaltenders in their system rather than signing them or trading for them. They're actually doing some homegrown goaltenders. Joseph Wall, one of them, and then Hildeby. It could be a tandem in the future. Who knows? And that's 2 guys that they've drafted and developed, which is usually not the case. They're usually trading or signing them. So that's a good sign for them in the future. And Hildeby's showing that. I wasn't aware that he was drafted in 2022. I thought he was drafted a lot longer ago, but there you go. All right, Peter, over to you. Who do you got from this 2022 draft so far that's a steal?
You guys are making it so hard that I got to take a Maple Leaf prospect right now with Lazowski and Hildeby off the board. As much as I want to say Nikita Grebyankin, because I'm not going to shut up talking about him, I am going to mention a different player. That's David Goyette from the Seattle, or drafted by the Seattle Kraken, 61st overall, and yeah, just tearing up the OHL, leading the league with 94 points, and we didn't think that, he could top what he did last season with 92, and he's already eclipsed at that rate. So he's just taken the league by storm. He's just very patient. He's a very dynamic playmaker. He's putting up the points and he's leading the Wolves. Like the next best player is Quentin Mussey, and he's 23 points back of Goyette in regards to first and second place right now. So that just shows you how dominant Goyette has been and how much of a charge he's taken for the Wolves this season. So Yeah, he's going to be my pick, and unfortunately, I could not round up the Maple Leafs hat trick right there.
Gravyankin's a good pick too.
Yeah.
He's sure shown that where he was drafted could be a really good pick too. So yeah, some good picks there. All right, moving to the 2021 draft, and these are going to get more clearer now of who's a steal, because we got quite a few in the NHL right now from the 2021 draft. Peter, I'll start with you. Who do you got as a steal from this draft? Now 2 years, 2 years in from it.
You know what? Again, it's so easy to pick Matthew Knies here because he probably should have been a first rounder, given how, he missed half of the first season with COVID, but then he turned on the Jets afterwards. But again, I want to go there, but I'm not. But I think the obvious one is a steal in a good way where they took that chance, and that's Dallas with Wyatt Johnson. That pick is paying off big time right now. Obviously that draft was basically a toss-up, basically very limited viewings, very limited games, very limited players playing during the COVID-19 pandemic. And Johnson was one of those players that really didn't get an opportunity that season. And then after he gets drafted, he goes on 124-point run with the Spitfires in 21-22, back-to-back 40-point seasons with the Stars. There's going to be a point where he's going to break out, and he's going to be a very, very consistent point producer for the Stars, and he's going to get more minutes, more ice time, more responsibilities. It's only going to be a matter of time before that happens. And the fact that they took him when they had the chance to is just speaking volumes to their scouting department right now.
Yeah, looking back, he probably should have been drafted in the top 15. I mean, he was drafted 23rd overall and already has 82 points.
Already low enough for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Stars in general, I mean, we're going to get to them as we get going through our farm systems, and they're, for a playoff team, perennial playoff team, they've got a pretty strong prospect pool so far, and they're just coming. Stankoven's just around the corner, and he's dominating the AHL right now. So yeah. All right, Dayton, who do you have from this draft that's steal?
Well, I'm going to start my my thing with a question for you guys. How many fifth round picks from the 2021 draft are playing in the NHL right now? That would only be one, by the way.
One. Yeah.
Just one. I was about to say it can't be more than two.
Yeah.
It's Joshua Waugh for the Montreal Canadiens. He's the only one who's made it from. He's actually the lowest picked player from the 2021 draft to make the NHL, and he does not look out of place with the Montreal Canadiens. He has been doing fantastic. So far, he's got into 13 games, already has a goal, 5 points, and then in his first season in the AHL, he already had 13 goals and 32 points. That's very strong for a rookie coming in without pretty much any AHL experience. He had one playoff game before that. I mean, hardly counts, right? So that's somebody that the Montreal Canadiens desperately need, is getting those high value picks from lower in the draft. And he's going to slot in very well into that middle six. I think that's where he's projecting to go. Slide in the wing there. You never know who he's going to end up playing with. Maybe he's going to slide in beside Cole Caulfield, set him up with a couple of assists. Yeah, this is a great pick. Definitely snuck him from under several people's noses.
Yeah.
150th overall, they picked him. So yeah, love seeing that. That's a great pickup in the fifth round.
Yeah, it's surprising where he was drafted, because I didn't think he was drafted that low. Because he's been one of their top prospects for a while now, and he's like you said, ripped up juniors, and then the AHL, it looks like he's fine there, and now he looks like he's fine in the NHL. So we'll see what his ceiling is. I mean, it could be that his ceiling is a middle six guy, or who knows, he could be a top line guy eventually. I mean, Cole Caulfield wasn't expected to be a top line player because of his size, but look what he's doing now. So mine is JJ Mosier for the Arizona Coyotes. He was drafted in the second round, but he was the first guy from this draft that actually played in the NHL. from all these guys. So, and he already has 67 points in 180 games, and he's one of the Coyotes' top defensemen. Plays a lot. He's already, I think they felt okay trading Chychrun because they had him. And that's something big for a guy that second round pick, and he didn't look out of place in his first season in the NHL, and coming right out of the draft. So that's a pretty big thing. I think Mosier's been a steal for a while. I think a lot of people kind of realize that being in the second round, he probably should have been drafted in the first. Looking at it now, so definitely a steal in my eyes for sure. All right, finishing this off, we'll talk about the 2024 draft. And I know this one for sure we're not going to know for way down the road. But Peter, do you have anyone that you have your eye on already that could potentially be a steal or potentially be drafted low and then end up being a steal?
Yeah, this is definitely very, very difficult. You know, looking at the list right now, obviously there's some, like, in terms of like NHL Central Scouting, there are like a lot of names that stand out that, you know, are very low that could go high or vice versa. But I feel like, you know, I hate to pick on like the top 10 or like, you know, in the higher ups right now, because I still feel like Berkeley Catton is going to fall out of another top 10 spot, because we all know the reason why. Doesn't matter how good he is, how smart he is, he's going to fall out because of that size factor. He's 5'10", 170, but he really shouldn't. He should be in the top 5, maybe, or like a top 6 pick, what have you. But anything lower than that is just going to be disrespectful to him, because, you know, we know how good of a player that he is right now. Yeah, I think that that's going to be one name that we really need to keep an eye on. But in terms of like later in the draft, you know, it's very difficult because it's still very early on. But I think once the draft actually happens, then we'll get that sense. Yeah, he should have been very much higher up.
Yeah, it's tough doing this so early because we don't know. I mean, a lot of these guys we expect to be higher, and then they're drafted way lower. And it ends up like, you know, Berkeley Catton's going to be one for sure. He's going to be drafted lower, and he definitely should be higher with his talent. Yeah, we'll see. Dayton, do you have anyone?
I was just about to say I did not want to steal Dayton's name because I'm pretty sure I know who he's going to say.
I tried to go for some more underrated guys who I think could show up. I'm interested to hear who you're thinking I was going to pick, though.
Luke Misa.
See, yeah,
it was Misa. That's who I was thinking. Yeah,
no, that's fair. So for top ranked guys, I think Aaron Kiviharju is going to drop. He has size issues that the scouts are going to look at, and he's been injured parts of this season, which is not a great reflection on. Well, it doesn't give you a good picture of who he is, right? You have to really look for his highlights. But outside of the first round or second round, I think someone who could end up being a steal is a guy by the name of James Reeder. So I don't know if that's someone who's come across your radars yet. He is 152nd on NHL Central Scouting. He's only 5'9", 168, so not the worst combination of size and weight. But with the I always screw this up. Dubuque Fighting Saints? Dubuque. Yeah. Okay, getting better. He's 18 years old, so not an overager, I don't think. 2005 October. It's right on that edge.
Yeah.
But he's already the assistant captain. He's got 47 points in 38 games, 19 of which are goals. And that's a pretty good clip for a draft eligible guy. That is, he's the 7th youngest on the team, already serving in a leadership role. 4th in points. That's somebody I want to keep an eye on. I'll also add Hunter St. Martin, who is an overager. He's playing with the Tigers right now. Medicine Hat Tigers, that is. He's got good size, 6'2". So someone should, pick him up
Mhm.
because he's almost playing at a point per game pace. I think he's just overshadowed by some of the other guys on the Tigers right now, which would be guys like Caden Lindstrom, Hunter McKenna, Andrew Basha, even Oasis Weisblatt, who is not drafted but should be, have kind of stolen the thunder. He's a fantastic depth scorer. And so if he's given a shot, I think he's really going to explode for points. And someone's got to take that chance.
Mhm. Yeah, those are two names to keep an eye on, and we'll throw out a few more as we go throughout these shows. As we get closer to the draft, we'll get more clear picture of where these guys are going. Yeah, it is tough to look at right now because you don't know where these guys are going to go. So we'll just have to wait and see. All right. Well, that's our draft portion of the show. We're going to talk about the Buffalo Sabres next. But before we do that, got to talk about our Substack here at the Hockey Writers. We have one dedicated to every NHL team. We also got one for the draft and prospects content. Sign up to get everything delivered to your inbox multiple times per week. We also got the premium tier with exclusive articles, rankings, mailbags, interviews, bunch of fun stuff there. So make sure you're checking that out in the sign up link below. All right. Well, let's get to our first farm system deep dive. And we're going to start at the top because it's always fun to start with the big teams that have a lot of great prospects. And we're going to start with the number one ranked as according to our farm system rankings here done by Logan. Buffalo Sabres. They are number one, and they were number one in the first set at the beginning of the season. They were also number one in the mid-season rankings. It didn't change. So Logan had his top 5 prospects in there. I don't think he put them in order, but we're going to do that. We're going to put them in order. So I'll start with you, Peter. Who are your top 5 prospects for the Buffalo Sabres?
I mean, if we're excluding Zach Benson because there's that, what was it, the 50 game mark that excludes him, he's closing in on 50 anyway. So I'm not going to pick him right now. He's like 2 or 3 away.
I think he's
so
done. He's
fair.
an NHL player.
By the time this comes out, he's going to be not a prospect anymore. So it's going to be Yuri Kulik, Noah Ostlund, Devin Levi, Isaac Rosen, and Matthew Savoy. Again, not in any particular order. Those are just the 5 names that really stand out, and rightfully so because they are their 5 best prospects at the moment.
Yeah, all great names. Dayton, you got those 5, or you're switching them up?
No, I think I'm right with you there. You can't really get better than who they have in their forward group. Kulik, Ostlund, Savoy, Rosen. That's a really good group, and it's difficult to put them in order.
Yeah.
If forced to, I think I would go Kulik first. He's been really, really good in the AHL and should translate well to the NHL. Devin Levi has also been really good. Had a bit of a rocky start to his rookie season, but it shouldn't be bad. Goalies are tough to predict, and that you just got to give them time. So no, that's a good top group, and it's splitting hairs when you got those guys.
Levi's goaltending, he probably wasn't ready for the NHL full time. Get some seasoning in the AHL. I mean, they got UPL up there. It seems like he's kind of set in the NHL now, so there's no reason to rush him. So it's good he's in the AHL, but he is definitely one of their top prospects still, for sure. Yeah, I don't have any disagreements. I think those are the 5. I don't have anyone else. They got a few other interesting guys we'll talk about, but those are definitely the 5. All right, standouts this season. There's a few, and probably some of those 5. Peter, who do you have as some standout prospects that have caught your eye so far this season?
I want to talk about again, we're going to talk about probably, Yuri Kulik, but Noah Ostlund too. I want to highlight him because he seems to be a name that's not being talked about enough because of who's in front of him right now. Obviously, we know Kulik's power game, but Ostlund is, just as dynamic with the shot and the intensity that he plays with. 18 points in 32 game. I mean, sorry, not Yeah, 18 points in 32 games this season. With I have trouble pronouncing it.
Basho.
Vasho. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. So in the SHL, again, probably still not getting enough, minutes, everything like that. But I think he's still like proving himself and still holding his own at the senior level. So that way, when he makes that transition from Sweden to North America, he still has that pro experience under his game as well. I think that's going to be very important for him. Really stood out at the U18s with 10 points in 7 games. Sweden again falling just short, but he's a big reason why they made it to that gold medal game. Again, just falling short, which is a little bit disappointing, but he definitely has what it takes to be a difference maker for Buffalo in the near future. Again, probably still undersized. Again, he probably needs to add a little bit more weight, maybe not height wise, but he needs to bulk up, add a little bit more muscle. But just like what Buffalo has been doing, drafting players like Matt Savoy, Zach Benson, they have the IQ. He has the awareness. He's very deceptive in manipulating plays. So he's definitely going to be one to watch out for in the near future.
Yeah, Osland, we'll see where is he going to play center in the NHL? I don't know with his size, but he is a centerman. They've got quite a few centers in their system. Savoy, Rosen can play center. Kulik, I believe, can play center as well. He is a center too. It's just someone's gonna have to play wing. So
yeah.
Anton Wahlberg, another one, center. They've got quite a few. So, but yeah, he's definitely one to keep an eye on, and he's had a good season too. Right, Dayton, who do you have as some standouts from the Sabres system so far?
I really like how Isaac Roshin.
Rosine.
That's another one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard it a couple of ways.
Rosine. I think it depends on who's saying it.
I know, right?
If it's anglicized or not.
Yeah. Isn't that how it always goes? But Rosine, I've really liked his progress this year. 29 points in 46 AHL games. This is his second season in the AHL, but he's on pace to get to almost 20 goals at 43 points. That's a pretty good total for a developing prospect. Like you mentioned, he can play center, probably more of a winger. That's just kind of seems to be where he's transitioning to. But no, he's one that I think has slid under the radar a little bit, just with all eyes on Kulik and even Matt Savoy this year, who I think is getting a bit of a bad rap for his World Junior performance. He's still got 5 goals in his last 5 games. Like he's on a tear. He's gonna be fine. But Roshin then slips under the radar, and he's been just as good as those guys.
Mine is a guy that is not a top name, but Vyesvovol Komarov. He's got 55 points this season as a defenseman, split between the Quebec Ramparts and the Drummondville Vultures. He was drafted in 2022 in the 5th round. So that's pretty good. I don't know, like the QMJHL is a pretty high scoring league, but producing there, he's a right-hand shot D, and we all know what the Sabres need on the right side. So he could, I don't know. I mean, again, he's 20 years old. He'll probably be transitioning to the AHL next season. So we'll see what that goes, if his offense can translate there. But I mean, it's on pace for 67 points. Is a pretty good clip, and he's been doing it actually. Last season he had 39 points, so he's could be doubling that this season. So keep an eye on him. He's a bit of an under the radar prospect, but he's stood out for sure. All right, now speaking of underrated prospects, now these are the names that we don't maybe not normally talk about, but could potentially come out of nowhere and be something. So Dayton, you got anyone in that category for the Sabres here?
Yeah, so the Sabres, I think it's no secret, have not a lot of depth on their defense. And we'll likely look at some targets that they can focus on a little bit later here. But right now, they've got one guy who I think has a chance to be an impact defenseman, especially on that really weak right side that they have, which is Maxim Strbak, the Slovakian with oh, sorry, where is he playing right now? Michigan State University. Now, not great numbers with Michigan State, which, I mean, the NCAA is a tough league, especially as a freshman. So he's doing okay there. At the World Juniors, you really got to see what he was capable of. 1 goal, 6 assists, 7 points in just 5 games. And he's a big reason why Slovakia, at least this year, is right in there with the medal contenders. And it was his 3rd campaign too. So he had all that experience. He's a very interesting and talented defenseman, great 2-way abilities. He's got that offensive side, but he can back it up with that defensive side as well. And pretty decent size, 6'2", 190. Got that right shot. Yeah, he's on progress to make the NHL, I think, in the next couple of years. And if he does, that'll be a very good sign for the Sabres.
Yeah, we'll talk about later what their weaknesses in the system is, but yeah, there's some wide open spots for the right-hand shot defense, and Strbak definitely stood out at the World Juniors, and I mean, NCAA, tough league for defensemen to produce points, but 9 points, 26 games, not horrible. But who knows what he's going to do in the NHL, if he's going to be an offensive defenseman or if he's just going to be a very solid 2-way guy. But yeah, the Sabres definitely need guys like that to come up. All right, Peter, who do you have as an underrated prospect with the Sabres?
Yeah, we talk about how great their forward depth is, but I'm going to highlight a name that maybe could be flying under the radar based on, like, where Roseanne is at, where Kulik is at, where, even like Matt Savoy is at. Excuse me. I'm going to talk about Victor Neuchev on the left side. I mean, they're kind of weak on the left side defensively. Obviously, you got, Zach Benson. That's probably going to be one of your top wingers in the future. He's a left-handed shot, so I think he's going to get one of those spots. But I think he could be a very strong and quick and offensive middle six type of player. He's got the speed. He's a fantastic skater. He's got the hands that could just attack head on and push defenders back. Like, he plays with that pace and that high intensity and level of offense that can make him and the Sabres a difference maker. The only thing is, he just needs to get a little bit more consistent, be a little bit more physical, and work on that. But I do like the upside that he does bring to that left side for the Sabres, because they pride themselves on being, offensive factors. They want to be deep offensively. This is the guy that could provide some strong secondary scoring for them.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to mention a defenseman too, Mats Lindgren, left side defense. I was surprised where he was drafted in the 4th round. I thought he was going to be drafted a lot sooner, especially what he did with he was drafted in 2022, and what he was doing with the Blazers in that season, 44 points in 68 games. And then he followed that up last season with 34 with the Red Deer Rebels. He's already got 35. He's already surpassed that this season with the Rebels. He's an alternate captain as well. So he's got a bit more leadership, being, counted on for that now. And, he's looks like he's going to be a good 2-way defenseman in the NHL. I don't know why he dropped into the 4th round. He's got good skater. He can move the puck. It's maybe his consistency defensively, maybe, that he could fix, but I mean, that's something that you're gonna be able to develop throughout moving into the AHL and as you go through. So I think he's still going to end up being a pretty good defenseman in the NHL. And yes, their left side is loaded, so he's gonna have a hard time getting in there. He may have to play his offside, but we'll see what Lindgren can do. But he's had a really good junior career, putting up points. So, and he's been a plus player in the last 3 seasons, and you want to take plus minus into account. But yeah, I still think Lindgren's going to end up being pretty good in the future. All right, we mentioned some I mean, these are probably going to be pretty easy to pick out, but Dayton, what is the strengths of this farm system? Is it the forward group? What part of the system is their strongest right now?
I think they're ability to put the puck in the net, if that's one way to say it. They've got a really good young forward group. So we've talked about a few of the prospects, but in the NHL already, they got JJ Peterka, Jack Quinn. They've got like Dylan Cousins, Peyton Krebs. These are all really good offensive guys, and they know how to score. So that's definitely not a problem for the Sabres. And given that they're all, I think, under like 23, it's a great group. They've got the goal scoring sorted out. That's not going to be an issue for a very long time.
Yeah, that's probably Peter. You probably agree with that.
Yeah.
What
No doubt.
about weaknesses? I mean, we mentioned the right side on defense. What other things do they kind of have to address moving forward in their farm system here?
Yeah, I think it's just maybe fun. Yeah, we already know the right side very, very weak. But I think maybe just trying to find that consistency in goaltending. Obviously, they're struggling, like Dayton mentioned, they can put the puck in the net, but they struggle to keep the puck out as a result. And obviously, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, it has kind of assumed the starter role right now, but decent save percentage right now, decent goals against average. It's just a win-loss kind of up there. But you know what? After last season, he didn't look as sharp. I think maybe right now, maybe that competition has kind of fueled him with Devin Levi. If Levi is able to take the right steps appropriately and continue to get better, then we could definitely say that, they got a strong tandem. That could be a very steady 1A, 1B type of scenario where you're not going to overpressure one of those two guys. So that's one thing to look forward to, mainly as aside from the right side. I think just the goaltending situation itself is how is that going to play out. They do have Scott Ratzlaff in the system as well. I really like that pick. Last year, I believe he was selected in the 5th round, 141st overall. But he's still a ways away. He's still got a lot of things that he needs to work on as well. And also the Seattle Thunderbirds, if you look at his numbers, they're not that strong, but they were much better the previous season before. So they have some names. They just need to keep on working at it, they need to keep working on it and develop as the years go on.
Yeah, goaltending and then the right side, other defense. I think that's what they got to address. The goaltending is maybe okay, like you said. I mean, if Levi and Peck UPL are developed properly, and it's just a really good tandem for a long time. It's just, can it be that? And Levi's shown flashes. It's got a lot more developing to do. So we're just gonna have to wait and see, I guess. That's our mantra on this show: wait and see. But yeah, I think the goaltending, maybe drafting another one just to kind of get the depth there, but we'll see what happens with that. All right, moving to this year's draft and draft targets. Now, 1st round pick, they got both their picks. I mean, probably not going to be trading them away because I don't think they're selling. They're not going to be buying at this deadline. I think they may be getting some guy. I don't know. I mean, the Sabres are an interesting one. I mean, they're not close to the playoffs. I don't know what they're going to do, but right now they've got all their picks. So it's kind of hard to go through all, but we're just going to focus on the first 2 rounds. As of right now, they'd be picking 8th and 40th. So Peter, give us some targets for the Sabres. For their strategy. Well, we'll package these two together. First, what is their strategy going to this draft? Is it best player available? And then throw out some targets that you think they could be focusing on around the 8th and the 40th picks here.
I think with the 8th pick, you got to go best player available. I mean, you want to make that top 10 pick count. But at the same time, if there's a player positional need that turns out to be the best player, let's say Zane Parekh, right shot defenseman, very dynamic offensive playmaker, shoot the puck and jump into the rush, and he's very confident at what he does. Why not fill that spot up? And, he's just breaking records right now. So why not take a guy like that into the top 10 that could bolster your right side already, and he could be a foundation for them in the future. And the same thing, you could probably do the same thing for the second round pick, best player available. But then again, you're still looking at a lot of right-handed D options that could be within that range as well, that you could probably fill out in your top 4. If Henry Muse is available, can you try and take him? Dominic Badinka, he's kind of an underrated name flying under the radar right now. Do you go forward where, I'm kind of high on a player like John Mustard or, even someone like Marek Vanacker, who's shooting up the boards right now because of how consistent he's been playing this season already. And if there's a player that's falling down there, why not take that chance of drafting them and try and steal them just in a different round at this point? So those are 2 names or a few names that I'm just spitballing out there. But with that first pick, if Zane Parekh is still on the board, why not take that chance and you could hit both just get it over and done with by taking one of the better players and fill out a right shot defenseman.
Yeah, Parekh would look good alongside Power or Darlene, that's for sure. He hits his potential. That'd be pretty scary. All right, Dayton, do you agree with that? Best player available at the points, and you have some names that they should be focusing on in those 2 spots.
Pretty much, yeah. I think teams should always be looking at best player available. That's when you don't, that's when you start getting really strange picks. Kind of like the Ottawa Senators taking Tyler Boucher 10th overall. I'm never going to not mention that. We're
never going to get an answer for
weird. And it's clearly not working out. He's going to be a fine player. He's not going to be 10th overall. He's never going to be 10th overall. He never was going to be. But whatever. So that's when you draft for positional need instead of looking at, okay, who's at the top of the list.
Yeah.
With the 2024 draft, you got a ton of great defensemen at the top, a lot of them who have right shots. So yeah, if Zane Parekh is available there, grab him. That would be a fantastic ad. Another guy, or a few other guys who would look really good, is Carter Yakimchuk. He's got that size that would really help. I forgot his first name, but Prasek.
Parekh.
Thank you. Yes. Or Adam Juracek. All great guys to target right in that top 10, honestly. None of them would look out of place, maybe a little bit of a reach, but not a big reach at all. Looking at 40th overall, grab another guy who can shoot right and is on defense, right? There's so many. Like Charlie Elick. He could be around by the 40th, depending on how things go. EJ Emery. Like you mentioned, Henry Muse. Those are 3 excellent right-handed defensemen, and one of them is likely going to be around there. Maybe, depending on how things fall, Harrison Brunicky, right?
He's improved this stock.
Yeah,
he definitely has. Yes, currently out with an injury, which is unfortunate, but he, really, really good defenseman that definitely could be around there at the 40th. So why not grab a couple who are going to make your team, essentially, basically guaranteed NHL players.
I don't think the Sabres should be going forwards anymore. I mean, not in the first round. I know there's probably going to be some guys that they're going to be tempted to grab, like they did with Benson. I mean, it was really like, you have to take them. I mean, that's just where they were. But this draft is just so many good right-hand defensemen. I mean, they need it. Their draft, they has to be best player available, but they'd be drafting for positional need as well at that point. But there's just so many guys, so many great guys that they could draft. And to address that, I think definitely go for at least one of them being a defenseman, and probably the first round pick will be that. All right, our final one for this is prospect of the year so far. And it could be a guy we've mentioned, probably is one of the guys we've mentioned already. But Dayton, who is your prospect of the year so far for the Sabres?
I'm maybe going to pick an unpopular one. But I'm going to go with Matthew Savoy. I
Mhm.
think he has been above and beyond a fantastic prospect, like exactly what you'd want from a ninth overall pick. Yes, his World Juniors was disappointing. Everyone on Canada except Celebrini was disappointing.
Yeah.
So that was just, I think, a poorly constructed team and not necessarily a player's fault. You can come at me at the comments if you want. I'll I'll fight my position. I'm pretty confident in that. But he's been so good in the WHL this year. He's well over a point per game. In fact, he's probably going to hit 2 points per game by the end of the season, and almost a goal a game.
Mhm.
That's exactly what you want to see from your top guy. Someone who is continually progressing and hitting new heights each season. Even after his trade from the Wenatchee Wild to the Moose Jaw Warriors, he's been just as dangerous. He even has an NHL game under his belt, 6 AHL games, during which he put in 5 points. Yeah, he's great. And one little blip shouldn't remove the fact that he is going to be a fantastic NHL player.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean that World Juniors, I think it was a whole thing. I don't think it was his fault at all. For how it all went. So yeah, Savoy definitely still a top high end prospect for the Sabres. Peter, what about you? Who's your prospect of the year so far for the Sabres?
Yeah, it's definitely got to be Savoy. I mean, you look at the production that he's doing with both the Wild and the Warriors in Musha when he got traded. It's, 24 points in 35 games. I mean, not 35, in 24 games. Sorry, I cannot count right there. Jeez, I'm looking at the projected stat as well, but he would have been on pace for 70 points in 35 games. He has been dealt with some injuries this season as well. Um, be it he had some issues during Team Canada as well, where he was dealing with injuries. Believe there's some issues as well when he came back with Musha as well. It was week to week with an upper body injury that I could find. And this was back, just a few weeks ago. So he has dealt a bad hand this season, but he's still been productive when he's been healthy. And he easily could have given it to Zach Benson for making the jump already, but
Yeah.
what Savoy has been able to do, still dominate his age level World Junior side, he's still being a dominant factor in the WHL, and that's why he was sent back to still work on it and dominate it when he can. That way, when he's already 20 years old, he's going to be done for this year. He's going to be moving on to the next level. So hopefully this could prepare him for the next level, and I think he's up for that challenge.
I feel like he could have made the NHL if he wasn't injured. He just got hurt at the beginning, and then they got him in for like 5 minutes or something, and then sent him back. It just it was kind of weird, that NHL debut, but yeah, he's taken it in stride. Went back to junior, and he's dominated. I think he's going to be in the NHL next season. If not the NHL, he's going to be dominating the AHL. Yeah, Savoy's definitely. I it's either him or Kulik for me. Just Kulik's been so good in AHL. He's been so good at the World Juniors this season again. Yeah, he's a top prospect, and Savoy, and you could pick one of them. I mean, Savoy, Benson. Benson technically not a prospect, even though he was just drafted. But yeah, and they've got just such a strong pool, and it's hard to pick just one. But yeah, Savoy is probably the one for me too. All right, well, there's the Sabres farm system. We got some really exciting ones coming up as well. But the Buffalo Sabres, when they can start figuring it all out and get all these guys in the NHL, they are going to be a tough team, a very high end offensive team. And they've already got some really good defensemen. It's just, and the goaltending can figure stuff. They're going to be a powerhouse. I mean, you'd think they'd be a powerhouse. You'd hope that they'd be a powerhouse, I guess, for Sabres fans. It's been a long time coming just to make the playoffs. It's been over a decade. So it's coming. All these prospects will end up being in the NHL, and they're going to be pretty good. So look out for the Sabres. I keep saying that every season. One of these years it'll be right. So there you go. All right, prospect of the week now as we finish up our show, and I will start us off with Arshdeep Bains. I made the NHL. Well, he made his NHL debut this past week. Has 3 games under his belt now. Has looked really good. He's played with JT Miller and Brock Besser on the. I don't know. They kind of call them the top line, or Elias Pettersson's line is the top line. I don't know. 1A, 1B. He's playing with He's been playing with JT Miller. And looks like an NHL player. I mean, he hasn't scored yet. He hasn't gotten any points, but he doesn't look out of place. He's been great at forechecking. He made a couple great passes that guys couldn't finish on. Also, he tried to pass to Besser a couple times on 2-on-1s that got blocked. We should have just shot it. But that's a rookie wanted to just pass to the guy that it's like he's probably going to score more than me. But yeah, Baines just coming out of undrafted and had a really good AHL season. He's got a career high there. I'm just happy for him what he's been able to do and made the NHL now. So and has already gotten some great praise from Talkit as well as being an NHL player. So Baines is my prospect of the week. All right, Dayton, who do you have as your prospect of the week this week?
I'm going to go with somebody we mentioned earlier a little bit, and that's Logan Stankoven, who just scored his first NHL goal, which is always exciting.
Yeah.
And he also got an assist in his second game, so now he's up to 2 points in 2 games. That's so good. He always was going to be a really talented player, but people kept overlooking him because of his height. He is only 5'7". That's admittedly pretty small for NHL standards. So he went into the second round. Like, he was a first round talent, always was going to be a first round talent. This year in the AHL, he's been crazy, right? He's the top scorer, at least last I checked. And his point streak of 5 games was just broken, which is okay. He's in the NHL now, so it's fine. It's worth it. Yeah, no, he's doing awesome, and I feel like that's what everybody thought was going to happen, and now there's proof, right? He's great, just great.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone doubted it that he's going to come to the NHL. Actually, good too. The Stars. I mean, they've got another one, right? Peter, finishing it off. Who's your prospect of the week?
Yeah, I'm doing a little early scouting and getting my March rankings together, and I'm gonna pick Marek Vanacker from the Hamilton Bulldogs with the Ontario Hockey League. Last four games, 8 points in that span, but in his last outing, he scored 4 points and a hat trick. Just a pure goal scorer. He's got the intensity, he's got the shot and accuracy, he's able to drive the middle of the ice. He's got that, that mindset in him that he just wants to pepper the opposition and pepper goalies with pucks on net. He's going to be that type of player in the near future where, that's going to be his MO. He's got the power and release. I think that, he's definitely moved up on my list of players. Didn't quite have a strong top prospects game, but then again, that's one game. There's a bigger sample with him with the Bulldogs, and I'm confident that he's definitely going to move up and be a major factor in that regard. I think teams are going to be on high notice because he already has 30 goals. Decent playmaker as well with his 39 assists, but he's going to be a guy that's going to be known for putting the puck in the net. His latest hat trick is a reason why, and he's my prospect of the week.
Yeah, great pick there. And I mean, there's going to be a lot more names, like I say, as the season goes on. Playoffs start, there's going to be more that's going to stand out, and we'll start mentioning them more too. So keep an eye out. We got great stuff coming for the draft, like I mentioned at the top of the show. Lots of prospect profiles coming out, and that'll be just after the trade deadline once all that's over and done with. We'll talk about any prospect trades that happen. I don't know how many will happen. There hasn't been any trades in the NHL since what was the Bemstrom trade? That was just kind of like, okay. The Emil Bemstrom, that was the last one. The last big one was the Elias Lindholm trade. So really, there hasn't been anything. We got a week to go to the deadline, and we'll see if there's any other big deals that happen that involve prospects. We'll talk about them. But that does it for us this week. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Prospect Corner. Make sure you subscribe to Talk Bears YouTube channel. Make sure you catch up all our new episodes, and also make sure you're checking out our NHL and Draft Prospect Substack to stay caught up on all our new prospects content. There's a link in the description below. Thank you, Peter and Dayton, and thank you for joining us on this week's edition of Prospect Corner. We will see you next time.